Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Let's do the Friday Q&A live. I was planning to do this weekly. I think I failed for the last 2 Fridays. So now we're back. It's going to be much easier when the kids go back to school. So they go back on Wednesday next week. So I will hopefully, fingers crossed, be doing this every Friday from the foreseeable future. I'm just going to warm up. I've done nothing. I've just trained a client. Rosie's hair. It's nice and warm. Let's do a little bit of prep, a little bit of warm up for any questions that you guys might have, guys and girls. So normal deal. Just stick anything down. We'll work for it as we go. I'll answer anything I can in terms of training, mobility, handstands, the normal stuff. If I can't, Rosie can. So let's see what the body's dealing with today. I've done handstand push-ups yesterday. If you've seen that video, where I went through different reps. So straight in cold, I've done the handstand push-ups, high repetitions, like 8 to 10, and then went to deficit handstand push-ups, and then 90 degree, and then dead press. So that was yesterday's workout. No real plans for today. I'm going to take it a bit easier, do a little bit of balance work, and then tomorrow I'm going to do a straight arm session. So perfect day to do a Q&A. Just do anything that you guys are interested in seeing or have questions about. Okay. Okay, how much time will it take to actually learn the press crow to handstand if I already learned the handstand 4 reps for handstand push-ups with wall assistance? You should be able to get it relatively quickly. It all depends where your gaps are. You just got to make sure with something like a crow to handstand that your body position is correct. So if you are slightly out of position backwards towards underbalance, the crow to handstand is going to be really heavy. If you manage to use the seesaw and get the timing and the push right, the crow to handstand is very, very easy. Relatively, obviously, you need to have a bit there already, but you've definitely got enough strength if you can do 4 reps of handstand push-ups against the wall. You just need to use that momentum, get the energy in the right place. So let me see if I can demo that. So what I'll do is I'll put too much weight under balance first, and you'll see how heavy that's going to feel and how hard that is. So if I do this and do that, and now try and push up from there, it's really hard because I'm sending weight backwards. And that's what we tend to do when we're doing like a chest wall version or something like that. We'll send weight too much in that direction. It's going to make you feel very heavy. The other issue is that you send too much weight over balance, and then you're just going to fall over. So you need to try and ride the edge of that. But if we can ride the edge of that and use the seesaw, so head and shoulders come down, hips come up, the crow to handstand, and you can tell by my voice, is actually very, very easy. But it's that timing of taking the head and shoulders down, the hips up, and pushing at the right time. And it's actually way easier than handstand push-ups from a strength point of view. But obviously, if you're going to do it freestanding like that, you need to have good balance. If you don't, back to wall is probably the best option for that technique. Chest to wall is also good. The downside of chest to wall is you will put lots of weight into the wall as you go back up. In terms of time, if you got the technique right, you could get one today. If you get the technique wrong, you could still be struggling in 12 months' time. So it's juggling the technique side. Video yourself from the side is probably the best way to do it, and you can see what's happening. It should make sense to what you're feeling. Okay, I can do freestanding handstand push-up with an arch back. Sometimes can I get to the required strength for the clean one, just with back to wall handstand push-up. I also don't like kick-ups because it's inconsistent for me at least, and I want to learn some 100% success rate entry. What would you recommend? So I'd highly recommend to get super strong in your underbalance. So your underbalance is king when it comes to consistency of catch, a bigger balance window, the correct shoulder position for press handstands, for handstand push-ups and things like that. So becoming strong in underbalance is the best way to do it. Toe pulls is the way to go for sure. Spending time in that position, pulling the shoulders lightly away from the wall. So doing like this. Still got all the stuff set up for my PTO stuff. Let's get this out of the way. So making sure that you can hang out in this position. So up to the wall there, and just make sure you can hang out here for time. So this wants to be really, really active, strong, balanced. There's your handstand push-up base where you're going to start, and making sure that you've got room where you can move around in that underbalance position when you do it freestanding. That way, so there I'm catching an underbalance, come forwards, there's the underbalance, making sure that you can then hang out in that position. When I go up and down, I'm not relying on the overbalance, taking the legs over like that banana type handstand push-up. That's perfect if you get stuck, to help you out, like we were just demonstrating with that Croda handstand, but it's going to give you a banana handstand push-up that's hard to get rid of if you always do that technique. A real cool way of doing it is use the banana technique to go up, and then use real clean, slow eccentrics on the way down. So then you're doing the best of both. You're still getting repetitions, but you're working on that slow down as well. I wish you the best luck. Thank you very much. Will take more of 2 months to be mastering underbalance if you practice consistently. It's very individual. It all depends, like what I just done there with that shoulder position coming down the wall towards that underbalance. Some people are very nervous of that position. So number one, some people don't have the conditioning. So they literally can't hold a chest wall handstand for 30 to 60 seconds. If that's the case, then it's going to take a little bit longer to build that strength conditioning first. Then you have people that are scared of the position because you can backsplat. So when they pull their shoulders away from the wall, they get scared, and then they have to they'll put too much weight into the wall with their toes, which will make it very hard to come off the wall, and then they'll start to flick and try and push off the wall. So that doesn't work. So it all depends on your conditioning, your experience, and then your confidence in the position, and practicing the good technique. That's a very specific exercise that needs the correct technique for repetitions. If you're practicing something that's not correct, you can do loads and loads of work, but you'll never get over the line of actually getting stronger in that position because you're practicing it slightly wrong. So making sure that your technique is perfect on that one is really important. So it's impossible to say time. I've been doing handstands for years and still struggle to hold for 10 seconds. My hip keep going over to underbalance. Yeah, so that's very, very common with people that are flexible. So the hip, or do like a yoga practice or something like that, the hips become very high and the shoulders become very open. So you end up chasing your hip all the time. The best thing you can do is practice what I just showed, the toe pull drill, making sure that your body stays shoulder dominant in the handstand all the time, even when you kick up. So if you're kicking up freestanding, you want to make sure that your dominant shoulder base is in control all the time. So if I place my hands down here, shoulders directly on top of the hands, focal point is between the index fingers. I want my hips to kick up this side. So hips and legs to kick up this side of the handstand, not going in that direction. If they go that direction, I'm going to tend to overbalance. So here, focal point, and then when I kick up, notice how I stay backwards with my hips and my feet, my shoulders are forwards. And then I come back down, so there, even if I jump, it's exactly the same thing. I'm keeping the shoulders slightly forwards, the focal point slightly forwards, and my hips and my legs are going up here, not over there. Most people will do this, so they're coming down into this position, hips and legs go in that direction, and then they try and get their shoulders backwards underneath, which takes the base away, hips over the top. But if you're prone to doing that with the hip, you'll end up going over all the time. And even if you can catch the handstand, it will feel really top heavy. So very, very common, especially for mobile people. But toe pull drill and then practicing kick-ups like I just demonstrated should make a big difference. Muscle-ups hurt my wrists when I false grip the rings. Yeah, that's normal. You can video yourself, check how you're gripping the rings. but you just need to condition some of the false grip. Make sure that you're pushing down all the time or downwards on the ring. That can help, being on the palm. Flexibility in the false grip position can help as well. So increasing that. And then just doing enough conditioning of false grip positions in an easier position. So doing things like false grip rows, false grip hangs. So I've got rings there. Look, if I go into a false grip position on these and then just hang out in that position. So I go false grip, I'm very sweaty, I'm not sure I'm going to grip very well. So if I just hold that position for time, that's a great way of building strength conditioning in the false grip. If that's too hard, do it in a row type scenario. So keep your feet on the floor, lean backwards, get used to moving in and out in the row, and just make the body more conditioned to it. It does take time though, because we're so soft in that part of the skin there. You need to condition it slowly. You can tape up. Some people put wraps and stuff on there. I'm not a big fan of taping up until you start to rip a little bit, and then I would tape up afterwards. That way you build some conditioning there. If you always put tape on from day one, then you're not going to build the condition, and you always need tape. Now, it's not an issue, but it just means that you can't muscle up without your tape. So it's sort of making it part of your process. I've lost where I am. Is piking in a handstand also considered bad form? Because I feel like a little bit of pike and it feels stablest. Okay, so yeah, the pike positions, it's not a big issue. The downside of piking all the time is that the hip flexors become a big part of the movement. And if you pike a lot and the hip flexors are switched on all the time, when you try and get rid of them, it will make the hip very flicky. So if you try and like come out of a pike position, you'll tend to like flick the hip, and the hip then will be moving and the feet will move on top of the base, on top of the shoulders, and that can flick you out of the handstand. You often see, again, flexible people, yoga background, that type of thing, they'll tend to pike with one leg when they handstand. So they'll do like this type of thing, and then as soon as they try and get rid of this leg, it makes it like that type of thing. I'm trying to exaggerate, but it flicks the hip around, which then makes your balance like really top heavy. So that's the risk of piking too much, is the hip flexors get involved all the time. However, you know, if that's the way you can balance, use it and then slowly try and decrease it over time, especially when you make things easier. So on your easier variations, so when you're doing things up against the wall, I would try not to use any pike, and then just use the pike occasionally when you need it to do your 1 rep max, your harder stuff. But then when you're doing the easier work, the repetitions, try and make it a little bit cleaner. Is it easier to handstand on ground or parallels? It's personal choice. It's a good option to have both. So be able to handstand on both variations. Some people that have tight wrists, say they work on a computer all day long and they're like this, and then as soon as they try and put their hands in this direction, put weight on it, it hurts their wrists, or they have wrist pain for some other reason. Parallel bars can work really, really well. They're fantastic. But the same thing we're putting tape on for what I was talking about for the muscle ups. If you always balance on parallel bars and become an expert at them, that's your only option. You can only balance on parallel bars. So I would do a bit of both. You'll have a preference. So do that for like 80% of the time, but play with the other one for 20% of the time. When you're initially learning, I'd recommend as best you can to go floor, and then add the P-bars in. That would be the ideal situation. But if your wrists are sore and it's stopping you from training, then P-bars might be the way to go. P-bars are also good if you want to get balance quickly and you're strong, because you can tend to pull yourself around a little bit more. You'll feel a bit more at home, a bit more comfortable controlling with the P-bars. And they do increase like the base, the bottom doing the work, which is very beneficial for handstands. So some people can learn quicker on parallels for that reason, but you are then stuck with them if that's the only ones you use. That was really helpful. Thanks. Thank you. But I personally think hands is better for feeling and easier. Yeah, so personal choice and what I just said. What's your favorite bar muscle up high pull drills? My bar muscle up isn't fantastic. Like if you want to like a more of a dynamic muscle up type movement, I would do high pulls, that one where you use like a target in front of you and then pull up. I've got a couple of videos on it. So where you stand on a step behind the bar. I don't have a bar set up here where I can demonstrate it, but you have a bar set up, a box behind the bar, and then you step into a target and then pull up at an angle and then go high like that, or do a pullover and then come down from the pullover and let your feet come slightly in front of the bar and then pull back up again. They're the main two I use with clients, and then occasionally bands as well. But I prefer the high pull movement and then just doing lots of weighted pull-ups as well with those. So then you get take the weights off and you feel like you're 20 kilos lighter and you're going to fly up higher. Do you prefer eccentric muscle ups or explosive high pulls? It depends on the client, so what the individual wants to achieve, and how strong they are. A lot of people are happy with high pull, like using more of a kip to get the muscle up, so you can tend to get it a little bit quicker. The false grip version works really well. Like that's how I learned like a strict bar muscle up, was coming from ring muscle ups. So my ring muscle ups, I learned strict. So then doing a strict one on the bar made sense to learn it in the same way. So again, I use both methods: false grip, slow controlled eccentrics, partial range, that sort of thing. And then I also use the dynamic reps, especially if someone's prefers that type of style of muscle up. It depends. I've got a couple of videos using the low bar, that bar with the tape on it. So I got a video where I was putting that tape on, full bar muscle ups. That's a good one to watch if you're interested in the false grip version. What stage in my front lever training should I go for some form of touch, front lever pull up, progression, and what would your progression be? With the front lever training, the two movements I'd normally put together is, depends on the level, whether you'd use a banded variation on top of your non-banded version. So do standard front lever holds for time, but I'd also do front lever pulls. And like inverted deadlifts. So that type of movement, learning to hold in that top position. Again, I don't know if I can do it. I don't think I can do it on these bars. I don't normally get bar questions with the Q&A, so I need to get something set up. But like learning to hold in this position, like so. Like a lot of people struggle with that and being able to go up and down into that position. Ideally, you would have a slightly higher bar than that, but like the inverted deadlifts, sliding the legs up and down straight, do a toes to bar, and then slide up and down. That type of thing is really good. But I'd also make sure that you're training things like skin the cat, front lever to back lever progressions. They're again really good. But planche and front lever are very similar in that I would just spend majority of time doing holds in positions, just thousands of repetitions, lots and lots of time. Anyone who's good at planche and front lever, I've just put the work in. Super simple. It's a bit like handstands, one-arm handstands. Very, very simplistic training, just thousands and thousands of repetition. So super boring, but I think that's the best way to get progress there. The patience is very important when we take time to learn skills. Yeah, 100%. But what I would do is a mix of both. So I would do some stuff that some quick, easy goals where you can chip off and keep yourself excited about what you're training, but also have things like full planche or one-arm handstand or some really pointy edge and high-level skills. Maybe you got one or two of those, a one-arm chin-up, something like that. That's going to take loads and loads of time and dedication. But on the way to those, you have some smaller goals that you tick off on the way. Because most people that have the big goals don't achieve them because they get bored and it takes so long. So I try and have some sort of smaller goals that you can hit, the fun ones that you can get quickly. Croda handstand's a great example of that. You might want to get a dead press off the floor or a clean 90-degree handstand push up. That's going to take a lot of time, but Croda handstand for most people can be relatively quick compared to the super advanced handstand push up skills. So that's a nice, easier variation. When you're learning a freestanding handstand, learn how to do a forearm stand or a crow or something as an addition to your hand balancing, not as an alternative, but as an addition. And then they're quicker, easier things to get. How can I learn handstand push-up? If I learned handstand, I can do it for 30 to 40 seconds clean. Any advice and drills? Is it better to learn handstand push-up or press or one-arm handstand? I would learn press and handstand push-up on the way to a one-arm handstand. So I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're starting to get a consistent two-arm handstand, the press and handstand push-up is going to increase your window of balance and give you lots of options, and then that's going to improve your handstand big time. So then once you've got your press, your handstand push-up, and you can hold 60 to 90 seconds really comfortably in a freestanding handstand, that's the time to then add in the one-arm handstand. In terms of press and handstand push-up, I'd go for the one that you prefer. I've always preferred the idea of handstand push-ups. I did train them both together, but that was, if I could pick one, I would have gone for the handstand push-up. And I do both. In terms of learning what's the best exercises for handstand push-ups, is that what your question was? Any advice or drills? I've got lots of tutorials on handstand push-ups and presses, and I've got a few on one-arm handstand. Interestingly, the one-arm handstand content, I don't put that much out. I used to put all one-arm handstand content out, and my interactions and my coaching and stuff was low. As soon as I changed over to press handstand and handstand push-up and put more content out on that, way more people are interested in training that. So you'll find way more videos on handstand push-ups and presses on my channel. So just search my name, look for my videos. You'll find lots on presses and handstand push-ups. You just need to find the right level for you. How are you supposed to use your fingers to control the handstand? So think of it like your feet. So when you're on your feet and you lean forwards, you'll push into your toes to push yourself back again. The easiest way to understand the toes is to do that first on your feet. So face the wall. So jump up and do this now. So put your face against the wall in that position, and then have your foot like 1 foot away, and then turn your abs and your glutes on just enough to make a connection from your feet to your head. Push through your toes, bring your head off, and then slowly go back again. And you'll feel weight go into your toes. And then I pull back again. So I'm controlling this with the push with my feet into the floor. And then it's exactly the same in the handstand. So when I'm here, squeeze the legs together, abs and glutes on, push with the fingers, and I can pull my feet off the wall. So I'm learning to use the fingers in that respect to pull off the wall. That's like a really initial basic understanding of how this connection goes from controlling with the feet, like so. This is overbalance. And then the same on your fingers. So that's like how to control the overbalance. Underbalance is more about shoulders, the same as on your feet. You don't control underbalance with your toes. You control underbalance with your knees and your hips. You sit into it. Hello, how are you? How many pull-ups should I do to train for one-arm pull-up? Like one-arm pull-up, I would be doing pull-ups, then weighted pull-ups. You should be able to get, 10, 15 very comfortable pull-ups before you start doing one-arm pull-up progressions. I would then add weighted pull-ups and have a play with different archer variations to start conditioning for the one-arm pull-up. But make sure, you've got at least 10 plus strong pull-ups, and then you can start playing with some of the drills. But I start doing top support, not top support, I can't remember what you call it now, lock-off position. So holding yourself in that position, either pull-up or chin-up. Chin-up's easier to learn a lock-off position. So lock-off was when you just hold there, have the other hand not touch anything, and balance in that position. Initially, you're going to need finger support. That's something you can start to play with, doing alternate grip, chin-up pull-ups, that type of thing. Just start to condition that and then delve into the one-arm pull-up realm. I'm not an expert on one-arm pull-ups. I've got one-arm chin-up once because I just do way more pushing than pull-ups, but I've trained a few people to chin-ups. I prefer the chin-up drills. I think it's easier than learning the pull-up ones. There's a lot of rotation on the pull-up, but again, it's personal preference. For me, 20 plus. There you go. So 20 plus pull-ups. And there's a difference. Obviously, just repetitions doesn't mean everything. You can do really slow, controlled reps at full range of motion, or you can, you see some people doing this for 20 reps. You need to make sure that you're doing full range, clean. There's no gaps. That's the cool thing with calisthenics is the higher level skills will find your gaps. So there's no shortcut with a lot of these movements. You need to make sure that each step you're filling all the gaps. I'm new to handstand. That's awesome. Welcome to the channel. Handstands, calisthenics, I think is the best way to train. It's fantastic. Are you able to do a one-arm pull-up? No, I'm not able to do a one-arm pull-up. No. I used to be able to do eccentrics on both arms. I'm out of condition now. I'd like to get it back. It's one of the things I've increased my weighted chin-ups now. I've now got in terms of how often I'm doing it. So there, my pull-up bar. There's a 20K kettlebell there with a strap around it. So every couple of days, I've been doing weighted pull-ups with the 20K kettlebell to get my pull-in strength back. But no, I'm comparatively weak in pulling compared to pushing. My handstand push-ups and stuff are much stronger, but that makes sense because I've done way more repetitions. Hi there. Hi, how are you? Wow, I'm training for archer pull-ups. Yeah, cool. Archer pull-ups are cool. I think they're a great way of starting to play with that one-arm balance, and it will take you towards the one-arm eccentrics. That's a really cool goal to get to. I can do 2 arches using band. Yeah, I'd go down the strap or ring route instead of using bands. I'm not sure how the bands work, actually. I'd need to see a video to understand how that setup works. What should I do? Using parallel bar to do a handstand or just use my hands? I'm a complete beginner in handstand. We covered that earlier. I would go hands as long as your wrists and stuff are okay. I'd start with hands and then add parallel bars in, and then only do parallel bars only if you're got sore wrists. Asking for a friend who's recovering from ACL. What kind of leg workouts do you recommend for someone like that? Again, like I would work through mobility type movements for hips and legs and make sure your ranges and look for gaps. Split squats and that type of thing are fantastic. Cossack squats, those sort of things are really, really cool. But someone recovering from an ACL needs to work out where their imbalances are. And then work on those. So I wouldn't give that type of specifics on a YouTube video without first assessing the person. Making sure that you're doing stuff to balance muscles around the hip and around the knee and the ankle would be super important. So really being assessed by someone would be the best way to go to find any gaps there. Can you do muscle up into handstand? I can do a dodgy ring handstand, but I put my legs on the strap. There's a couple on my Instagram, I think, where I've done low ring muscle up and then pushed up onto a handstand. But that's not. I'm not a big fan of doing handstands on rings. It's not, like gymnasts obviously train towards it, but it's a very specific type of balance. I can handstand no problem on P bars and things. I'd like to get a straight bar muscle up to handstand and handstand push up on a bar. I would definitely train for that. I've sort of played with it in the past. I was doing some eccentrics, so handstanding on those yellow bars, and then coming down to a handstand push up type movement, and then coming around to like a bar muscle up, a slow one, eccentric wise. But I never got one where I could press up. I'd like to play with that again. They're fun. Have you tried archer handstand push up? Messed around with that type of thing, but not really. I probably tried it like once in the gym, not played with it enough. I don't think it would be too hard to get one repetition. I say that it's probably crazy hard. Just that if I can get 10 handstand push-ups, you should be able to get one, even partial range archer shouldn't be too hard. But you'd have to work out the balance and the rotation type aspect. Those ones where you come down to single arm are pretty cool. Come down to like what they call it, a funky pincher or something in yoga. where you have one forearm down and one hand, and then you rotate and come up. So you got like one bent arm, one straight arm type handstand push-up. They're fun to do. How important is shoulder mobility in handstands? I watch my handstands back on video, and I feel there's a natural curve in my lower spine. Yeah, like handstand shoulder mobility is super, super important. Your handstand line will naturally get better over time. It's much easier to balance a handstand when the shoulders are closed, and it's much easier to use handstand strength. If I'm in this position, I'm way stronger. You know, you only got to do like incline press or something like that. You're way stronger than overhead press. So there's, you know, it might not just be a mobility thing. The reason your shoulders are staying closed, it might be because your body feels more balanced there and stronger in that position. So I wouldn't overly worry, and I would, you know, increase things like thoracic foam rolling, like that foam roller I've got on that red stool there. Like have one of those by your TV, roll on that on your upper back, and then passive hanging. I do that all the time as part of your warm up. And then just your handstand over time will get straighter as your balance improves and your time on your hands improves. The only thing where I would intervene and do a lot more work is if you have pain in your back. So if you're getting low back pain, it often comes from the hips, not the shoulders so much, because a lot of compensation in the hips and then through to the shoulders and vice versa. But yeah, if you get pain, then that's when I'd intervene with that and do more work to try and create mobility and like a happier line. I can do eccentric freestyle handstand push up today, but I think I did it in overbalance. It is bad, or I close to learn handstand push up. I am 15 years old and wanted to learn it before 16th of December. I mean, if you can do a full eccentric slowly. If you mean overbalance, if you was totally overbalanced, you'd fall over. So you probably mean that you was in like a banana type position, which is, you know, very, very common when you first work towards it. The Croda handstand is probably your best bet, because then you can embrace that arch that you're getting in your body and use that to help you get the handstand push up. And then when you get your concentric, so you can go back up with like an arch position, you can then use straight technique on the way back down. So do an archy handstand push up on the way up and a straight on the way down. So let me see if I can demo one. I'll have to take the hat off. So I don't know if that was a great example, but I done like a cleaner eccentric, the down, and then I just like flicked the legs and the hips over a little bit to scoop myself out of the handstand. That makes it easier. That's a good way of learning the handstand push-up, and then over time you can make the up a little bit cleaner as well, and then you can do the arch to help you get more repetitions. Using chest tool and back tool is really useful as well. Just try and be as straight as you can, definitely on the eccentric, with those two variations as well. The risk of using the wall too much is that you'll lean towards the wall, which will create arches or extensions and closed positions. If you were to devise a perfect calisthenics plan with someone who has unlimited time, how much would you recommend training and stretching in hours per day? It's very, very individual, because it depends on what the goals are. Like I have my ideas what I think the calisthenic goals are based on my interests. You know, press handstand, handstand push up, planche, lever, one arm handstand. They're all the movements that I really enjoy. I'm a muscle up as well. They're all the movements that I really enjoy. However, I didn't add in there like one arm chin ups or you know, I don't know what else I missed out. Planche push ups, something like that. Like other people might put those higher up. But in terms of training and stretching, it would be down to how well your body recovers, and also how long you like to train. So, you know, I know people that have lots of time and they live in gyms and they basically can train all day long. So they make their sessions last 5 or 6 hours. But you can have the same person who just doesn't like to hang out in the gym for that long, and they'll train for 2 hours, but they get the same amount of work done. So you need to take all those things into consideration as well. It's down to how you like to train. Some people like to split their sessions, so they do their handstand balance in the morning and they'll do their strength work in the afternoon. That can work really well. But then other people like to put their handstand balance and their strength together, and they do that as a 2.5 hour training session. But then it means that they can rest and recover and eat and chill for the rest of the day. I know how I would like to do it. I would probably train in the morning and be done at lunchtime, and I'd train for 2 to 3 hours and have it that way. But then I've got a big family and other things that I want to spend time with. So yeah, it's very individual. However, I'd always recommend that people do something towards their training goals every day. Some people don't agree with that, but I think your rest time, your hangout time with the kids, with work, with whatever it is, should include movement that's going to take you towards your movement goals. So that, I believe, is part of your training as well. So I sort of answered that, but didn't answer that. Okay, we're up to date, guys. Any other questions? How long have we been going for? 36 minutes. I wanted to go for at least 45 was the plan. Like I say, I'm going to start making these every Friday. I can't always guarantee the time. I'm going to try and mix it around a little bit, but when the kids are back to school more often. And I did mention last time that I was going to ask you guys to send some videos in. So of your training and what you're stuck with, and then I can put your videos up on the screen and talk about them at the same time, so everyone learns from each other. I've got to work out the logistics of doing that, like where you guys can send the videos, etc. But I will sort that out in the coming week or so, so we could do that. It'd be really cool. I'm also need to plan my workshops for the UK. So I'm in the UK in August, and I need to find some venues to run some workshops. So I'll be putting that out on social media and stuff. So if any of you guys are in the UK, or you know people in the UK who have facilities or have a space, let me know, get in contact. We'll look at running. I ideally want to do one in the London area, because I've got a couple of people in Europe that want to fly in for it. So I want it sort of central, and then I'll do maybe one or two somewhere else. That's in August. Okay, guys, any other questions before I disappear? Rosie's there. When you do the handstand, do you push down? Yes, I would say yeah. It's like push is a really good way of explaining, like get the base to be very active, and then reaching up and away with the feet as well. So you want to try and lengthen. If you think if you stand sloped over to one side in bad posture, and you want to reposition, if you just get taller, grab you by the hair and pull you up and push the floor away, that's the best way to bring the body back to one segment. What a lot of people do is when they're in a handstand and they're in a bad position, they'll think, I need to engage my abs, or I need to turn on my glutes to open the hips and things like that. But what that happens then is you end up with lots of moving parts moving sideways. But if you just extended and got taller, so push the floor away and then reached up as high as you can, normally that will fix your handstand line. It will rebalance you. So it's a really powerful idea. You can practice that against the wall. You can slump up against the wall in a handstand, but then if you just get taller, push the floor away, you pull yourself into a stronger position. That can work really well. It can go the opposite direction though. If you push into the floor too hard and reach up too high, you'll mummify yourself and make yourself really too tall, and then it will spill out and fall over. You have no control. If I can only handstand push up with clean negative and arched positive, should I just do negative holds? No, I would do both still. because as you get stronger and more controlled and more balanced on your up, your positive, you'll be able to clean that up over time once you can do more repetitions and your balance increases. So I would work both. Partial range is really powerful as well. So have a target that you come down to, touch the target and come back up again. Let's demo that because that's a really good one for people to get the idea of. This is what I use for press handstand and handstand push up. So let's use these blocks. Obviously, you can work any height and you can do all the drills. So I can do pike push ups like this. I can do handstand push ups. So I can do a pike push up there, just come to the target, come back up again. And then I can do exactly the same in a handstand. And maybe I can get cleaner reps doing it like that to that range. And then I'll also practice some to the floor, but that might be when I arch on the way back up. And then over time, you just slowly decrease that range or that height, the target, as your position gets cleaner. So I'd always do something for the concentric and always do something for the eccentric. And you always find that the eccentric will be easier and normally cleaner. Any tips for kicking up into handstand for long-limbed individuals who are lower body heavy as well? Exactly the same thing. Go underbalance, fix the base. If you find that you need a little bit of a kick into it, more like a gymnast would kick into a handstand, then do it that way. But have the same idea that you're keeping the shoulders slightly forwards and the hips and the legs slightly back, or they're definitely the hips slightly back. And you might just need to arch over a little bit. So you just need to think that you're going up to handstand as opposed to going over. But this is the same for everyone. Like you can go into it this way, head and shoulders down first, and then hips and legs behind, or be slightly like this. But what we don't want to happen is the hips and the legs to go on top of the hands, or the shoulders to try and come this way, and the hips to go over, because that's going to make you top heavy. So whether you do that from a standing position or like I just demonstrated, which is a little bit more to deal with, but might be easier to get you up into position. Think that way, video yourself, make sure you're doing that. So keeping the head and shoulders forwards a little bit and the hips and the feet back a little bit. When do you think I should start my handstand push-up training? I reckon in half an hour. I'm not sure what do you mean by when you should start it. I'd start it today. So obviously you need to have a look at your training schedule, work out what your goals are, and then work towards it. If you're working towards a freestanding handstand and you don't have a freestanding handstand yet, and that's why you're asking the question, I would still work your pike push-ups or your dips or your standard push-ups. So I'd be working some bent arm strength and some straight arm strength on top of your handstand balance. That would be the ideal. Because most people, when they get into handstands, even if they say they're not interested in doing handstand push-ups or presses, as soon as they've got a half-decent handstand, they're 100% going to want to do a press or a handstand push-up. So if you can start to fill some gaps, start to build that foundation while you're working the handstand balance, that's the perfect time to do it, like yesterday. So today's perfect. What are your thoughts on kettlebells and using it in calisthenics strength training? Kettlebells are fantastic. They're a tool. Yeah, I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 different kettlebells. They're great for using as weight assist. Like I prefer using those for my weighted chin-ups and pull-ups and that sort of thing. I don't use them overhead anymore. I used to do kettlebell swings and cleans and snatches and stuff. That was more when I was training like CrossFit style workouts and things. The downside of using kettlebells to do pushing is a bit like a barbell and a dumbbell. That's open chain. So you're moving your hand or you're moving the kettlebell around. When we do all the calisthenics stuff, we're moving our body around. So the bar or the floor stays still and we move our body. So that's why I prefer doing dips, push-ups, that type of thing for someone who's building strength over barbells and dumbbells and stuff like that. But saying that, like my background before I got into calisthenics was all traditional weight training. So it was barbells and dumbbells and stuff like that. So, that's what made me strong in my upper body for my push. So it's not bad. It's the best way to progressively train strength. But for calisthenics, I would choose now dips and push-ups and that type of thing if I can. Telegram would be a good way to send videos. Yeah, I was thinking more like YouTube links or something where I don't have to deal with too much size files and formats and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll look into that. I recently found out my handstand is a bit lopsided because my right shoulder doesn't elevate properly. Any drills? No, just normal ones. Get your balance good. Don't over worry about it unless you've got pain, and hanging and stuff like that will sort everything out. Everyone has one arm longer than the other. We have, if you're right-handed, your pec is going to be tighter on your right side, and your lats are going to be tighter on your right side. If you look posturally, you're going to have one hand turned in more than the other. So it makes sense that you're twisted. Everyone's pelvis is twisted slightly. I used to do corrective exercise and measure people's anterior, posterior tilt, so their pelvic tilt on the pelvis, and everyone's would be out normally towards the dominant side. It's not unusual to have twists in the body, and I wouldn't search for issues unless you have pain. Discord is another good one. Yeah, I've got the Discord channel, guys. If you want access to the Discord, I have that for YouTube members, people that are using the app and stuff. So if you want to, you can send me videos and things direct on there, and I'll get back to you. Do you think about flexing your body while in the handstand, or does it come naturally? I turn that on if I'm going to do something like, if you watched yesterday's YouTube video where I was doing 90-degree handstand push-ups and things like that. When I initiate a 90-degree handstand push-up, I try and hollow a little bit as I go into it, because that's like my one rep max type movements when I'm coming down, and I want to try and hold a straight body position. And the best way to do it to stop myself arching is to over hollow in the opposite direction. But I wouldn't do it too much. If you're struggling to come off the wall when your body's peeling away and breaking down and like coming apart, then definitely you want to think about it. But I wouldn't overly worry about it too much. But again, it depends on how your position's looking and where your strengths and weaknesses are in the position. So it's a hard one to answer. No, I meant like the foundation, like for example, how much dips is required before starting my handstand push-up thingy. I heard so many people about you should have a strong dip or something. Yeah, like dip push-ups and then dips, pike push-ups, and then wall handstand push-up variations would be the way to go. But I would play with repetitions on those. So if you watch the video I put up yesterday on handstand push-ups where I went through like standard handstand push-ups, 90-degree handstand push-ups, deficit handstand push-ups, I can progress through my variations of the handstand push-ups, and you'll see the progressions change depending on the repetitions. I would do exactly the same for your handstand push-ups. So I do high rep, like push-up as a warm-up, then I'd go into some dips next for like a lower repetition, and then maybe pike push-ups. So that could be your push workout, and then your bent arm push workout, and then your repetitions would decrease on those as you got to the harder exercises, but you start to work on them all. And then as you get stronger, you just move that up a little bit. So then you might do your pike push-ups, might be your high rep, and then you go into your chest wall, back to all handstand push-ups as your medium rep, and so on. So trying to work out, know all your progressions. Push-ups and dips are definitely in there on the start, and then you go into the pike push-ups and stuff like that from there. But it's very hard to say you must have 20 dips before you can do it, because 20 dips is like the pull-up question. There's different variations of dips. If you're only doing partial range dips, they're not going to help you for like deep handstand push-ups. You need to do real slow, controlled eccentric, followed by fast concentric with a little hold at the bottom in a nice deep position. That's very different than doing fast, short dips. So yeah, quality, range of motion, and technique for 5 to 10 reps. Dips would probably be what I'd be looking for. Any tips for tall people? I'm 6'3". Not really, because your body, like you need to handle your body in terms of balance, strength, and everything in between. There will be a little bit of a delay in terms of some of the movements that you do. Like if I've got someone I'm training who's 4 foot and they kick up to the wall and I say push with your fingers to get your heels to come off, that person is going to find it easier to connect their fingers to their feet just because of the length. The lever arm is not so long, but you know, that's your body that you're used to. So it's, yes, it's different. Some exercise is going to be easier or harder depending on people's height, but it's specific to you. So you need to balance your body. If you're having specific, sometimes people have a disengagement like that where they can't connect their feet to their hands. And if you're struggling with something like that, crossing the legs when you're doing the wall drills can help to create that one piece, but eventually we want to get rid of that cross legs type position. But again, it's very individual. That's not just a height thing. That happens to everyone in different ways. So not really. You know, you need to work towards your goals with your body, the same as anyone else. Same as someone's 100 kilos compared to 60 kilos. You know, the 60 kilo person is going to find things much easier on paper, but yeah. I've tried to do press to handstand before. Can do it if I jump a bit. Is it because of lack of strength in shoulder, as I could do pretty deep forward fold, touching my head to knee? Yeah, normally if someone's really flexible, they'll have a gap on that last little bit, and where their hip is still on top of the shoulders and the hands. So as soon as the hip has to come off and come back slightly on that last part of the press handstand, so this very bottom section. So when I'm like here, this is the hard bit to lift off of. But if I like raise my feet up to here, now you might be able to come up quite easy if you're flexible, because the hip can still stay on top. As soon as the hip comes off, because you're slightly lower with the feet, that's where you'll have an issue. So filling that gap is really hard for a lot of people. So yes, I'd work more shoulder planche type exercises and specific things to target that little bottom section. But that's really common with flexible people that have deep forward folds. I don't have dip bars. What should I do? I feel like the bed dips aren't doing anything. You know, I wouldn't do bench dips or bed dips or anything like that, because they put your shoulder in a really bad position. You want to be leaning forwards. If you can use boxes or park like kids' playgrounds and stuff, you can find somewhere to do it. Two boxes on an angle can work. I can use those wooden boxes. I mean, they're like gym boxes, but you can do it on the edge of like a worktop, like a kitchen top where they meet each other. You can place your hands on there and do dips there. That works quite well. You know, you can get quite, even when two cars are parked next to each other and you put the windows down on the cars, they make really good dip bars. So they don't have to be bars. They can be flat. When you start looking around your house and like your work and around you, you'll probably find somewhere where you can do that type of thing. So I wouldn't overly worry. And then you can go quite far with push-ups and pike push-ups and stuff like that. You just won't be able to get deficit. And see if you can get like those P bars there that I've got, those yellow ones. The black ones I got off Facebook Marketplace for like next to nothing. Some people like throw them out and things. You can make them out of bars like that. Those bars on the ceiling there, they were just like random pieces of metal. So there's lots of options. You just got to think outside the box. I think I don't lack flexibility. Yeah, so if you don't lack flexibility, then it is probably shoulder strength. So wall leans and things like that would be really good for you. So kicking up back to wall and taking the shoulders to the wall. Just watch that one though. Turn the hands out to the side. Start with your body very close to the wall and just do like a very small movement. Hello, man. Hey, how are you? You're really talented with handstand stuff. I love watching your videos. You got really good fitness advice. Awesome. Thank you. Got lovely feedback. My daughter's just going to walk past. Say hello to YouTube.
Hey, YouTube. Subscribe to me.
She's got a YouTube channel as well. I'm not going to give that out. I have a good 90-degree handstand push up, and I want to be able to do 5 in a row. What's the best exercises for that? 90. So you mean coming down, so straight body, chest to the floor, and back up again? I mean, if you can do one repetition, actually whatever exercise you're talking about, if it's not that one coming down to the floor and back up again, you just need to get more time under tension of that movement. So you can either go slower with eccentrics on the second repetition, so you do one really clean good one and then slower eccentric, or whatever exercises you learn the one very good repetition with, you just need to do the same thing. So just back off to do more repetitions. So go to something where you can get 3 to 5 repetitions that's slightly easier and do that really slow technique and then real slow control technique. Fill any gaps and then do it that way, and then get one. If you can do one really clean good one, you can do one really ugly one. So do a clean one followed by an ugly one, that type of thing. But dropping back on the progressions to however you learn the other one is probably the best way to get enough working sets. Not sure what that is. I only speak English. Hey, Paul, what do you think about stopping sets after you're hitting your max hold time on handstand before fatigue sets in? I play with both. Do some where you're just going all out max. A good way of doing it, though, on a handstand balance set is to come down with control. So always come down with 2 feet back to the floor. It's a bit like a one-arm handstand. If I'm doing max one-arm handstand, it only counts if I return back to 2 hands, show control, and come down, even if it gets really, really ugly when I'm doing it. Exactly the same. Like if I was doing a 2-arm handstand max hold, I would want to come down the way I went back up with some sort of control and just do it that way. Obviously, if you're collapsing so much, like you're dumping energy into your back and your body hurts and stuff, I wouldn't push it that far, but I would do some like that. And then some where you're doing max holds where you have some sort of way of policing how clean it is. Yes, so it was the 90-degree handstand push-up. So that's impressive. If you can do a really clean 90-degree handstand push-up, yeah, I would just do 1.5 reps. So one clean, one eccentric, followed that. The other way you could do 90-degree, a cool way of doing it is to raise the hands up. If you raise the hands up, it's 100% easier, and you can dip the head and shoulders a little bit lower than the hands. That way you can get 2 or 3 reps. That's probably another good way of doing it. Make it slightly easier by that. How to anti-underbalance. Thank you. Anti-underbalance. So you just need to get better at underbalance. It's just the wall drills, the chest to wall one, pulling the shoulders forwards, and just hanging out in underbalance and correcting. So what I mean by that is like go a little bit towards underbalance if you're talking freestanding. So you kick up and then play with going between underbalance and back. So get good at doing that. Get good. So basically just increase the range of motion. So it might be like a little flutters there. Now you can do that close to the wall, you can do it back to the wall, you can have someone spot you. You just want to start playing with moving between on the edges of your underbalance and overbalance, working between them. In workout sets, what's your thoughts on doing a set rep per set versus doing reps to failure? I play with all different variations. You want to look at your overall volume and time under tension. Time under tension is probably the biggest thing with a lot of the calisthenics skills. If you can get to around 30 seconds per set, I think that's a really good place to be. So where your body, as long as you're working full range of motion, the 30-second goal is a cool one to try and work out. And if you just look at what you're doing already and just like measure what's the time under tension per, if you're doing 10-second reps for your handstand push-ups and you're doing 3 repetitions, then you've got 30 seconds time under tension per set. I'd be looking at something like that. Or if you're doing faster reps, you need to do 5 repetitions. It doesn't always go that way because you could say I can do 100 repetitions in 30 seconds of something. I wouldn't, that's obviously going to not be intense enough, but the 30-second rule is a good one to look at. Any advice for planche? I can do a tuck planche, but I don't think the form is good. So what should I do? I would do planche leans, a lot of those. Make sure your scapula is really good. And then I would use a slight assistance on some of the repetitions to make it slightly easier. So whether that's band assist, but make sure it's very, very light, or light toe assist. Planche slides are really good. And make sure you have the mobility in your shoulder blades, so your scapula is conditioned and strong. So like planche push-ups, that type of thing, as part of your warm-up. Mobility can play a part in it, in like through the hips and stuff as well. So if you can't get your body into like a tight tuck, you're not going to have the bestest tight tuck position for your planche as well. Okay, guys, we're at 1 hour. I need to leave. If there's anything else quick, I can answer something in like a minute. If not, I'm going to disappear. But like I said, I'm planning to be back weekly on Fridays. You can drop questions down. So if you're watching the recording of this, or if I log off and you've still got questions, stick them in the comments and I will get back to you. I don't always see all the comments on all the videos. I try and keep on top of it as best I can, but sometimes it gets a bit out of control. But yeah, there's a same question regarding set rep versus to failure. How about exercises like dips and pull-ups? Same thing. You got to look at the quality of the repetitions and then do the time under tension. I would do the same thing. So slow, controlled eccentrics with fast concentrics, making sure you're getting a full range of motion and be around the 30-second mark. If you want to get stronger in dips and pull-ups, be around the 3 to 5 rep mark. Normally higher, 4 to 5 reps is your best bet for those. For typical 5 sets, like a 5x5, I think is still the best way to get strong. As long as you've got the time under tension and the quality. Okay, guys, I'm going to disappear. Stay safe, have fun, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.